Vocabulary. We got to start keeping some vocabulary going because this chapter is vocabulary heavy. A quadrilateral is any closed shape that has four straight sides. Closed means it's not like the letter U where it's open at the top. It's closed. So, and we're supposed to draw. I wonder if I can draw on here. Maybe I can't. Let me think about this for a second. That's better. Okay. So any four-sided figure here is totally going to be fine. So it's best if we draw it with straight lines. Can I do that? I feel like I can. No, here. Is this where I can do it? This is where I can do it. 1, 2, 3, 4. Any four-sided, any closed four-sided figure. All right, that's a quadrilateral. A rectangle is a four-sided figure and all four angles have to be 90 degrees. Now, technically that means that this could be a square, because a square also has four 90-degree angles. But that's what a rectangle is. And then the way that you show that it's 90 degrees is you put a little doohickey there, a little square mark in the corner, shows that they're 90-degree angles. A square is a type of a rectangle, but in addition to 90-degree angles, all four sides are the same length. So a square has two conditions, and they are four equal sides and four equal angles. And a four-sided figure, if you add up the angles, you always get 360 degrees. So if you're going to have four of them that equal each other, then 360 divided by 4 is 90. So that means they are all 90 degrees. So when you go to draw a square, what's important about drawing a square, like I'm not totally sure that the lengths that I'm drawing right now are all exactly the same because I don't have any tools that I'm using. So here's what I'm going to do. I am going to show that all four angles are 90 degrees by making my little 90-degree marks. And then I am going to mark with a tick each side. Each side that has one purple tick is exactly the same length. So if I were to say that this was 5, then that would mean all four sides were 5. Okay? Okay. A trapezoid is interesting because it has one set of parallel sides. So it's a four-sided figure with one set of parallel sides with exactly one set of parallel sides. And the way they mark parallel sides is they mark them with arrows. It doesn't mean they're the same length, it just means that they're going the same direction. And the last one is a parallelogram. A parallelogram has two sets of parallel sides. And notice how they're different. So this guy is parallel to anybody else who has one arrow, and this guy is parallel to anybody else who has two arrows. So if you think about it, a square is a parallelogram, a rectangle is a parallelogram, because they have two sets of parallel sides. It's just like square and rectangle are more specific ways to describe a parallelogram. So lots and lots of things have lots and lots of names. Like a square, You could call a square a lot of stuff. You could call a square a quadrilateral. Pretend that looks good. Because it has four sides. It's a closed four-sided figure. You could call a square a parallelogram because it has two sets of parallel sides. You could call a square a rectangle because it has four 90-degree angles. But the best, most descriptive name for that shape happens to be square, because it tells you about the parallel parts, it tells you about the lengths of the sides, it tells you about the angles, so it's the best name for it. But you could call it any of those other things. So like I said, let's keep our vocabulary going, because there's a lot of vocabulary. Oh, here's something else I want to tell you that's kind of fun. Parallelogram has the best shorthand. If I were to name these corners like A, B, C, and D, I could say that side AB and side DC are parallel to each other, and the symbol for parallel is this. It looks like LL for parallel. So you could say AB and DC are parallel to each other. You could also say AD is parallel to BC. And that little symbol I wrote above BC, that's the symbol that we use for line segment, because it looks like a line segment. So some things in geometry are kind of cool like that. For perpendicular happens when you have a right angle. So if I named this A, B, C, and D, it is true that AB is parallel to DC. That's this side and this side. But if we wanted to compare this side and this side, I could say AB and BC are perpendicular, and the symbol for perpendicular is an upside down capital T, which actually looks like two segments hitting each other at a 90-degree angle, which is kind of cool. Perpendicular. P-E-R-P-I-N-D-I-C-U-L-A-R, and parallel. P-A-R-A-L-L-E-L. Lots and lots of vocabulary this chapter.